update, because yesterday, the stats that came out yesterday were shocking. They were absolutely shocking. Like, I don't like being hyperbolic. Like, I am hyperbolic by nature. I can't help that. That's just what I'm like. I talk with my hands and I make things bigger than they are by accident. But it's something that I know I do, so I try and not do it, if that makes sense. But when yesterday's COVID-19 stats were published by government, the only word I could describe how I felt was terrified. There was, like, straight up, own up, I'm a person that's got anxiety disorder. I know what it's like to sit with this bubbling fear within you. You don't know why it's there, you don't know what it's there for, and you just wish it was gone, and you just have that feeling that something bad's going to happen. Well, that's the feeling I got yesterday when I saw government's latest statistics. And we've got to remember, these are government statistics. These are the official. These are the ones what they want us to know. Like, there's other people that are saying things are a lot worse. Like, there's like an independent app that's called Ask Zoe. I forget what the app's called. That's the name of the website. Sorry, I should have checked that. But yeah, that app, anyone can tell the app that they've got COVID-19. Now, obviously, we've got to take that app with a pinch of salt. Yes, it's a solid app and it's run by trustable people, but anyone can download the app and anyone can say they've got COVID-19 with or without a test. So, whilst that number might be like in the 20,000s or whatever it is, we can't tangibly put a stamp on it and say that's where it is. Thankfully, the government's numbers aren't that much better. So as you can see on screen here, we've got the test numbers on screen. Now, if you follow the website, which I really hope you do, it's voicebritannia.co.uk, upload news and opinions every single day. Go check it out. Last week, it was actually me, personally, who wrote an article about testing, because this is a topic that has been interesting me since the very start of the pandemic, because the stats with testing have just never been honest. And I checked at the testing number to see how, because as we can see here, it says that 20 million tests have been done. That is, an individual swab is a test. I know it's nonsense. So they said there was 20 million done. I done the numbers. I found out how many people had been tested in England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, and it comes to under 10 million. Less than half that number there. So this number we're not going to dwell on. I just wanted to remind people that it's based in fiction. It's based in spin. That 20 million number is complete spin, because it doesn't matter how many tests. There's some people who get maybe 20 tests done because they're idiots. They can't. The people don't know how they're doing the test properly. It happens. Mistakes happen. Every mistake's classed in there. It's a BS statistic. Not rational, and it's not real. But let's move on to the more worrying aspects. So first of all, the amount of people who were reported as tested positive yesterday. This is terrifying. Now, I was watching TV with my partner, as I do all the time, and the news was on at the weekend, and I think it was around 5,000 cases that came in on Sunday. BBC Scotland's news were like, yay, there's been a massive drop, it's dropped to 5,000, that's great. I was sitting there, I was like, what are they doing? I was like, this is not a drop, it is the weekend. This happens at the weekend, historically, since the start of the pandemic. And we don't know why, but this happens nearly every country that experiences it. There's a lull at weekends. It's most likely down to just administration. So when it came to yesterday and today, I was expecting the number to go, because it's the trend, it's what's happening. Now, I was hoping the number would stay under 7,000, because it's a large number and it's very terrifying, but no. It went above that, 7,143. Now, as you can see, it's our article we released yesterday that breaks down the stats and talks about them. You should really go and check this out, because this will tell you in a nice, concise manner. It breaks it down. But yesterday's 7,143 cases, that brings the rolling 7-day total up to 42,878. So there's been 42,878 cases in the last 7 days. That's crazy. That's insane. we are now averaging over 6,000 daily cases of coronavirus. Now, the averages are based off that 6-week rolling total, 6-day rolling, 7-day rolling total, sorry, because that is the best, and this has been proven as the most consistent way of working out the averages and where we are with coronavirus, because the averages, like whilst the dailies can go up and down, averages don't. They kind of give you a nice number to work with. So that's where we're at there. Over 6,000 cases a day average. Now, I looked at the day-to-day increases. How much is it increasing from day to day? Like between Monday and Tuesday, what's the average increase between that? Now, we're not talking about the totals here, because if we look at the totals, the increase is around 0.5%, 1% per day, because it's a massive number and it's a little bit being added to a massive number. But if you look at the amount day per day, like compare Wednesday to Thursday, Thursday to Friday, the average we are seeing day-to-day increase on cases is 45%. There's been a 45% increase in reported cases day-to-day in the last 7 days. That is crazy. Again, it's terrifying. And this rings true with what Valence and Whitty were saying last week. They said we could be seeing a gigantic amount of cases every day if we continue at that rate. And the fact is, if the numbers continue in the way they are now, they're right. They are absolutely right. This could happen. It's terrifying because there's nothing in place to stop these cases rising at the moment. Like, they've got that whole local lockdown system in place. Now, yeah, local lockdowns, this is great. But as we get into October, almost 40% of the British public is in a state of local lockdown. Local lockdowns have now been used for months. And, I mean, this is a coincidence. This is not like causation or anything. But for every time there's been another local lockdown added, things have got worse. It's an unfortunate trend, but it is a trend nonetheless. The more local lockdowns there has been, the more cases, the bigger the inflation of cases has been. Which is insane. That shouldn't happen. But it kind of shows you that it's just not working. Like, the local lockdowns are not stopping people from moving about and spreading coronavirus. We can see that categorically proven now, because like, we are now, this is the wave. It turns out that the first wave, that was the pre-wave. This is like an earthquake. If a bigger earthquake comes along, the first one was just a pre-earthquake. We are now in the real shit now. Like, that is the harshest, most blunt way of saying it. In terms of COVID-19, the UK is now eating shit. We are in the worst place, and it's just going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. Because, as I said, there's nothing stopping the virus from multiplying now. It's out of control, like totally out of control. Government have lost control. No matter how much they want to stand up in the House of Commons and say, yeah, we've got full control over it, lockdowns, regulations, blah, blah, blah. They are lying. They are not in control of this. If they were in control of this, cases would have been falling. They would not have been rising. Deep breath, Stevie. So we've got 6 minutes to go before Prime Minister's questions should get going. So we've got time to finish off this little segment. And of course, if you watch this segment's going to be on the video on demand on our Twitch channel. Share it out. It's going to be relevant for a few more days. Tell people what's happening. We need to tell people the statistics with coronavirus, because government is not telling, they're not being clear. And we need to now be clear that people need to start taking things into their own hands. They need to start protecting themselves. So let's look at hospitals and healthcare. Since the last report on COVID-19 hospital statistics on Voice Britannia, which was only on the 22nd of September. Now, it was 23rd or 22nd. It was a week ago, basically. Now, when I was writing this yesterday, I thought it was like 10, 15 days ago. It's like, oh, it was ages ago since that last hospital story. I checked it out and I was like, no, it was only 7 days. So it turns out, like, the last article we wrote about hospital statistics, we were worried. We were worried because hospital statistics had jumped by 500 people in a few days. That's really, really bad. Now, we've got hospitals are obviously, they are the linchpin of people not dying and COVID-19 being kept to a degree under control. during the first peak, we heard a lot about hospitals being under pressure. We were being told to clap for the NHS by government and its shills. And we knew the hospitals were in a really bad position. And we're getting there again. Now, at the peak, the most people that were in hospital with COVID-19 during the first wave was 3,564 patients, right? That was at the peak, at the worst day of the NHS saw with COVID-19 during the first wave. Now, at the moment, as of yesterday, there's 2,049 people in hospital. So, not only are we now about 2/3 of the way to being where we were in terms of people in hospital with COVID-19 as we compared to March, but we've seen an increase of 1,000 people in hospital with COVID-19 in a week. I keep saying that's crazy, but that's freaking crazy. That's an 89% increase in people in hospital with COVID-19. That's very, very serious. Now, of course, along with this, the amount of people that require ventilation has gone up as well. That is up 40% in the last week. And the more, it's really worrying because the more people that are in hospital, the more people will need ventilation. The more people that are in hospital, the less care they can all be given, if that makes sense, because there's more people. The more people there are, the more stretched the services are. And the more people that are in hospital means there's going to be more people in ventilators, means there's going to be more deaths, which we get to now because yesterday, boom, spike of deaths. 71 deaths in a day. Now, this is the highest amount of deaths we have seen with COVID-19 since the 1st of July. We need to take this into account. This needs to be taken seriously. I'm not even going to make a joke about being at 42,000 deaths because there's nothing to joke about. And when we take into account the state of hospitals, that hospitals are now filling up. And I say that, we've got a hospital in Wales already today now they've said it in a strange way. They declared that, I think it's like 90 people or 80 people in the hospital have COVID-19, so they've scaled back services. But if we remember, that's what happened at the start. They're a hospital. Hospitals are where people with COVID-19 are supposed to be. So if we remove the government spin from the story, we can see that a hospital in Wales has already had to stop admitting a lot of patients and stop doing certain things because they've got so much people with COVID-19 in it. That hospital is at its breaking point already. In a few weeks' time, if things continue like this, every hospital is going to be at this breaking point. Every single one. It's a failure of government. Like, this is the biggest failure of government we are ever going to see in our lifetimes. Like, we are never going to see anything as ridiculous as this and as terrifying. Like, it's a real tough situation, you know? And it's really tough because we're watching it. We are watching this like viewers watching a soap, like people watching a reality TV show. Like, this is some sort of hyper-real pandemic movie that we can kind of follow along and get emotionally connected to, but we're not part of. But the reality is we are a part of it. This will impact our lives. The only thing now that can stop this going even more out of control than it is now is a nationwide lockdown. But here's the kicker. The person who would call a national lockdown, he is an egotist. He is intent on not looking weak, not looking stupid, even though we know he is, not appearing as if he's a liar, even though he's the biggest liar on the planet. And a national lockdown would mean that Mr. Johnson has to admit to himself, to the country, to everyone, that he has yet again failed. He has failed at what he's going to do. He's failed at what he's done. And you've got to remember that when it gets to the question of where does the buck stop with COVID-19 in the UK, the buck stops with one man, and that is that one man who told us the buck stops with him, and that will be Mr. Boris Johnson. So let's get ready to get Prime Minister's questions on the go.